Actually, I spent my entire life in Chicago, Illinois. Grew up in the Chicago suburbs and spent my life in education. I was an elementary school principal and finally a elementary school district superintendent.
Wow.
And I began with collecting trains when I was 5 years old. Some of my earliest memories were my grandfather was a boilermaker for the Rock Island Railroad in Silvis, Illinois.
Oh, wow.
And he would take
days,
my
right?
brother and I, and we would go down to the switch yard. They referred to it as the hump. And we would sit up on the hill and we would watch the switch engine push the cars over the hump, and then the trainmen would flip the switches and make up trains there in the train yard. And gosh, I must have been 3 or 4 when I saw that. And my first train then came when I was 5. My brother was 3 years younger than me, so he really didn't get into trains until a couple years later. We ended up going from an O scale, which is the old Lionel, which is probably what you have in your attic, and 3 years later, when I was 8, I got my first HO train, and my brother got his first HO train.
So that's a smaller scale?
That's the smaller one,
smaller scale.
That became a lot more popular too, didn't it?
Actually, that's the most popular scale of all at this point. I would say if you were a true collector, those O scale, the old Lionels, those are probably the most valuable of all of the scales.
Now, if somebody has never collected trains but is retiring and would like to start, what would you suggest they do?
Oh my, I would say first of all they might want to go to some train shows. That's always a lot of fun. You get
we have them here.
Oh yeah. Actually in May was the last one that we had here in Savannah. But I've been down to Jacksonville, I've been to Atlanta, I've been of course to Chicago, and each show is different. It has its own personality, but anything that you can think of that might be associated with model railroads or railroads in general, you can find there.
Wow.
And believe it or not, there's just about as many different collectors as there are potential items for trains.
Probably you could